Hello, everyone. John Henry Soto here. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited. I'm starting to do some interviews. I've done hundreds of interviews, but this is a little bit different. I'm actually really, really excited about what we're actually presenting to you here today. We have, oh my gosh, this guy. I met this, I met this dude, and immediately I knew there was something special here, and I'm so excited that he's here. His name is Carter Nelms. He's an actor here in Tennessee, based out of Tennessee. He's a grounded presence. His emotional range, his commitment to authentic storytelling. He's hailing from Memphis. He has built a reputation as a dedicated performer who brings depth and sincerity to every role he takes on, whether in independent film, television, or stage. With natural ability to connect to character driven material, Carter gravitates towards roles that explore real human experiences, often portraying complex, relatable individuals with nuance and honesty. His work reflects a strong work ethic, which is something that I really, really saw right away, and a collaborative spirit, making him a valued presence on set and in creative environments. As he continues to grow his career here in the Southeast expanding film market, Carter remains focused on sharpening his craft, building meaningful collaborations, and contributing to projects that resonate with audiences. His passion for storytelling and steady dedication position him as a rising talent to watch here in Tennessee film community. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Carter Nelms.
There we go.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's definitely my pleasure. I said when I first met you, we chatted a little bit, I think on social or something,
Yeah.
and we met, and I just remember immediately just having a really good vibe from you, energy wise, as far as like, and this is an industry, and I talk about this a lot on my show. This is an industry it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, it's wonderful. I love it. I love storytelling. I love the whole craft of it. But really, when you're in it, you're like, this is like a whirlwind. Like, what is going on? And we talked a little bit about that on the phone yesterday. How just a bunch of stuff going on for you right now. So, tell me a little bit. I want to know, like, go back a little bit. When was it then you realized that acting was, something that you really wanted to dive into, and you decided, like, you know what, I'm gonna get into this.
Yeah, for me it wasn't an instantaneous process, but it wasn't a slow process in the grand scheme either.
Mm.
But it was a little bit delayed. I was several years into a software engineering career where I had been working at the
Wow.
same startup company here in Middle Tennessee for a long time since the first year it had begun, and had a great time there. Really loved all those years. In my last year there, yeah, in my last year, I suppose that was a little bit before, about a little over a year before my end of my tenure there, I met someone who ultimately planted the seed in me to start acting, and there's a
Wow.
longer version of that story as well.
Yeah.
But once that seed was planted, it just sat in me for a little bit, and I spent a month or so just sitting on it, kind of testing it, seeing if it was actually something I felt drawn to do or just a kind of a passing whim. But it wasn't just a seed of, oh, this would be fun. It was a seed of, hey, you really should be doing this. You could be
Mm.
doing this. And at the time, it wasn't a thought of, I'm going to change careers and I'm going to go do this instead. It was just something else that I could be doing. It was accessible. I didn't realize how much was going on in Middle Tennessee. It's no Atlanta or Hollywood, not
Right.
yet, but it has not just a lot of potential. It actually already had a fair bit going on and was not a bad place to get started. Not
Yeah.
to mention the shift into self tapes versus in person auditions, which pros and
Right.
cons, but that definitely made things more accessible. So
Yeah.
later that year, I began putting myself up out there, got on set here and there, just local small projects where I could, and things kind of kept growing. And next thing you know, projects are getting a little bit bigger, and then comes time to get, headshots and getting an agent lined up. It's like things
Yeah.
just kept rolling. There were lots of affirmations, and I really can't tell the story without bringing God into it. He just
Yes.
there were so many times where I was questioning, is this something I'm like really supposed to be doing, not just
Mhm.
some fun thing to be doing? And every time you'd take one step and the next one would show itself, and you just had to walk in that and not have to
Nice.
plan things out. But every time things just kept moving forwards. About a year or so into that, things at the startup company just came to an end. And again, there's a longer story with all that. Wasn't fun, but that very same week when that finally ended was the same week I was introduced to my agent, who I've been with for the last year and a half. She's actually retiring now. But as one door was closing, another door was opening. More projects have come. Things have just been getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And here we
Yeah.
are. I've gone from being a full-time software engineer to a full-time actor, and it's
Yeah.
not something that would have ever been on my bingo card a few years ago, but
Wow.
it's not
That's
something I would
amazing.
trade for anything.
That's amazing. And isn't it wonderful that you get that, the affirmations and validations from people, when they see something, and it's like it's such a it's people don't realize how important it is to validate someone, like even if you think that it doesn't matter, trust me, when you say simple things like, man, I really think you're on the right track. I mean, it's something that I try to do often because it really lands. It really lands, especially artists. Artists, we're all in our heads. We're in our heads constantly, and we're always thinking, is this the right move? And like you said, you have the foundation of God, and you have that strength as well. But there's also the business side of it. Is this the right business move? And then you have to
Yeah.
kind of, you have to make some choices but it's wonderful when you have that. Now you're here in Tennessee, like you mentioned, and I know that um Tennessee is yeah, you're right. It's expanding. I mean, Atlanta's right there, and Hollywood is having its challenges right now.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of slowly and surely. I hope they recover. I think Hollywood deserves to be. I mean, it's part of our history of the industry, and I think that it's a valid place, and it's got the space, and they have all the tools already. But here in Tennessee, it's really growing really fast. Now with the environment changing, the landscape of not only film but with all the other technologies that are coming in, what roles are you drawn to, like, the most? Like, what,
Yeah.
especially with everything that's out there right now?
My primary focus has been faith-based and Christian content.
Mhm.
That said, it's not something I do exclusively. Nonetheless, everything I do care about what the message of the project is. I care
Sure.
about that a lot more than I care about the individual role.
Okay.
As far as the roles go, I actually love diversity. I love trying characters I've not tried before. Sometimes you read a character description and going into an audition, and it just immediately clicks, and you can see yourself in that role. Sometimes you feel like you got to stretch a little bit more. That's the craft side of things, and that's what I
Right.
love. That
Yeah.
there's kind of the craft, and then there's the purpose. There's the skill set, and there's what you can actually do with that skill set. So when it comes down to that, I really do love a wide range of roles. I love trying things I've never tried before. The bigger point of importance for me is the purpose of the project itself and the message that it's sending.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think also, when you're taking on roles that challenge you, I think that's the exciting part of being an actor, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's the kind of things that you're like, because you're right. You sometimes see a role and you're like, oh yeah, I kind of I kind of get this, and then
Yeah.
of course you're gonna add your nuances, and the director is gonna give you, a direction
Oh
as
yeah, yeah, and
well.
you're always discovering too. Like
Right.
I've watched back on even stuff that I've done before and appreciated my own performance, but watched back, and you ever watch a movie and you can feel what the character is feeling, and you might even,
Yeah.
physically react a certain way. You're acting like that's
Right.
you're
Right.
already in it. You're already
Yeah.
behave, as they say, behaving truthfully under imaginary circumstances. You
Correct.
know it's not real, but you understand the reality of it,
Sure.
and it affects you, and you behave within that reality.
Yeah.
And so even when it's a character that you think, oh yeah, I get this guy, even if you're right, even if you step in and you just all the more so as
Yeah.
you study this character and study the script, even more so go, yeah, I do understand this guy. You'll get into those scenes, and when you're
Yeah.
really free and loose and you've done the work, you still don't really know what's going to come out, and you'll make discoveries even in the middle of a cut of a take It's
Yeah.
just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's also you get the responsibility of what we're doing too, because
Yeah.
one that's the craft part of it, and that's the part of us, learning the nuances of the character and the tone and the inflections and all that. Once you
Yeah.
get that down, then you realize, oh wait, well the purpose of this is to entertain, is to have a message, is to get it out to the masses, and is to communicate to the audience of the realness of this. This
Yeah.
is happening. This is a real thing.
Yeah.
And the circumstances are not real, but the circumstances are real in this
Yeah.
situation here. And there so many elements to that. You know,
Yeah.
is it? Do you have like a method that you use? Like, do you have a certain technique that you use? Discipline?
I've been studying with Tina Gallo at the Nashville Studio of Method Acting. When you say
Okay.
method, the
Hmm.
fact is that every actor is going to have his own process. Within studying these things, you learn different techniques and different toolkits, and what works for one may not be what works quite so well for another person. So you have to find your own process.
Right.
Even Tina, I know, refers to herself as an acting coach versus a teacher. Acting is a difficult, if impossible, thing to teach. It's really that somebody has the talent for it and you coach them, you help them find what it is they're capable of doing.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that we learn are relaxation techniques, are visualizations, because in the simplest sense, maybe your character just got shot or stabbed, or maybe he's smelling a fresh cake that his mom has cooked him since he was 3 years old. And in reality, you're not actually experiencing those things when you're acting, but you have to sell it, right? You'd think you'd
Right.
pretend, but there's a degree to which you can. We've all seen movies and TV where some of the acting is not quite as up to par as some of the others. You can see what difference those things
Yeah.
can make. And like a lot of things, you don't always realize when it's being done well until someone does it not well and makes it stick out a little bit. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into that sort of thing. There's definitely a process. And yet at the same time, every time you get a new script and a new character, we have a starting point. We know where to start, but where it's going to go from there,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
don't really
and
know.
and technique is interesting, and method and disciplines are uniquely they're structurally so different, but yet they're all obviously to just get the same point, or to arrive to an understanding of what you're trying to communicate is the purpose of all these. And let's talk about that a little bit, because you mentioned the method, and you're finding things that sometimes work, sometimes don't. And then I've seen, like, really hilarious interviews. I don't know if you've seen this with Russell Crowe, where they asked him about, like, what study, and he's like, I never did anything. I don't study. He goes,
Yeah.
I read a little bit, and that's it. He goes, I just have the Russell Crowe technique. And Ryan Reynolds is right next to him, and he's kind of like laughing because he's studied, and
Yeah.
it's somebody says, you've just destroyed like 100 years of of disciplines.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, he goes, you go out and you do it, and that's he's obviously was born with this gift,
Yeah.
and he utilized it, and then there are guys that, like the Pacinos and De Niro's and those guys that are very, very much into a, a study, a
Yeah.
technique, and so when you're approaching a character, you're really, how do you, because you have a lot, like you said, you have a toolkit.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you do first when you get a script in your hand? What's the first thing that you do?
Well, this might sound oversimplified, but it's not. The first thing I do is read it. But
The whole thing.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
But to
Yeah.
be clear, yes, first off, the whole thing, it doesn't matter if your character is on one
Correct.
page. You read the entire script.
Spot on. Yeah.
The first time you read it, there's nothing fancy to it. You're not working on your character. You just read the script as if it's a book somebody handed you and you're reading it just to entertain yourself. You're just consuming the pages. Then you go back through and now you start kind of putting the words on your tongue a little bit, speaking the lines, that kind of thing. And you go through again, and there's really no upper limit to how many times you can or should read the script. You start listening to, there's actually a great clip from Walton Goggins where
Yes.
his, yes, you know exactly which
I
one I'm
know,
talking
right?
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's
He talks
talking
about his
to
acting coach
Anthony
told him, hey,
Hopkins, and
yeah,
yeah,
said Anthony Hopkins and oh, who else? It was Robert Duvall. Said these
that's right.
guys, they're reading the script 250 times, which you would have thought he pulled the number out of thin air. And over the next few years,
Yeah,
Walton got to meet each of them and asked them, like, do you really do this? And they said, yeah, I really do that.
yeah.
And the conclusion he makes is like that once you have lived in it that much, you're not really even you're not making decisions at this point. You just
Mm,
have this understanding. Because when you're
yeah,
you and me right now, I have no idea what the actual next words are that are going to come out of my mouth until it happens. Now, when you're
right,
acting, you have lines, right? But beyond that, the way I'm doing this right here, everything, all that. If you recorded my words that I'm speaking right now and transcribed them to a page and we played this conversation back out, it's not going to be the exact same, all this kind of stuff like this,
right,
because I'm
right.
listening to you, right? I see your rights, your nods, all these things that we're responding to, right?
Yeah,
Not to, to ignore if, maybe a pet or something came through or something like that. There's
right,
nothing, none of this is wrong. Absolutely none of this is wrong. We're just two people living our lives. And when you're acting, you're portraying two people living their lives. And there's another
right.
interview with Meryl Streep where she
Yes,
talk about coming to that conclusion of I can't do wrong. It's like, yes, as long as you are behaving truthfully, it's not wrong. Now you may get redirection. A director may want something else, and that's fine.
right,
But that's all we're doing. We're stepping in,
right,
behaving truthfully. And so, yeah, when I get a script, that's the first thing I do is you simply read it. There's a strong temptation to go on ahead and start thinking about your character when you're doing that first read. You have
right,
to you have to you have to let that go because you don't know who this character is. You've got a first impression based on a few words. That's already smaller of an impression than if you saw somebody in real life and you don't know anything about that person you just saw for the first time. So you got to
right.
let it go and
Yeah,
like it's a book, like it's a novel, just read it that first time and then that part will come later. Then comes the time to start asking questions and breaking down individual scenes, but your individual scenes for your character themselves are all connected to what your character's super objective is. This being the term for what your
yeah,
character, what ultimately is driving your character through the entirety of the script.
right, right.
And so what
It's
he's doing,
study. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly, yeah. And
yeah.
so within a scene, there's that whole trope that even non-actors know, like, what's my motivation? But it's, yeah, what do I want in a scene?
Right,
Your
right,
character wants something, and there's something between him and what he wants. What does he want it? But beyond the individual scene, there's some greater purpose that he's working for, and
mm,
whatever it is he wants in the scene
right.
serves that greater purpose. So you got to know that as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's funny because you think that the motivational part, like if you read the script that many times and you put yourself in that world and you really understand the nuances of what's happening in there, um, by the time you get on set, you kind of already know you shouldn't have to ask for motivation.
Oh no.
You should not have to ask that. You should. Now the director might say, okay, maybe they'll guide you a certain way, but they know that you've done the work,
Yeah.
and I could always tell. I've done 10 films that I've written and directed. I'm on my 11th now. When actors come to the set and their script looks like it got run over by a truck, with
Yeah.
writing all over it and stuff,
Yeah.
I love that.
I yes.
That to me is like, okay, they've worked on this. I'm not worried about. But if somebody comes in, and I had this happen once, but they had the script and like there was no crease on the top of it when they turned the page.
Yeah.
Like I guess they were just, oh, maybe it's a new copy. I don't want to judge,
Yeah. Yeah.
But my point is that it's the work is really the work, and that's what you have to kind of just put in, and reading the script. Oh, it sounds. And there's another thing I was just going to mention, that what you said earlier, you said, you're tempted to kind of go ahead and maybe find your lines and see how, and see where, and just go ahead and see how this thing ends. And
Yeah.
you're really tempted to do that. The key is not to
Hmm.
read it as you're reading it for the first time, as you're actually, like you said, reading a book, and
Yeah.
see where, because you can, if you've read enough scripts and you've seen enough films and you've studied enough, where you can see dips in things. The script is like, okay, this is right here. This scene right here is not even needed. I don't even know why that's there.
Yeah, yeah,
And you can see it now. Of course, you may not have the power to be like, this scene's not needed, but you will know pretty quickly now, that this is something that doesn't really necessarily move the story forward. And sometimes
yeah,
directors fall in love with their shots, and it's like, this is a beautiful shot, and I love this scene. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't fit to the narrative. It kind of almost stops the film
yeah.
because you have this. So you have to also, as a director and as a writer, you have to also look at that as well. You write as well?
I haven't yet.
Okay, okay.
And I say
Uh,
yet because, and I'm just
yeah,
speaking from the heart here. That's it. But I had a long time before acting came in the picture, and then it just hit me like a storm.
right.
And so it's my belief that that's going to be something I'm called into down the line. It's not
Yeah,
something I've stepped into yet,
yeah.
but it's, such that I feel comfortable saying that much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, understanding as much as you already do and having been on as many sets, writing it free. This is my opinion anyway, but
Yeah.
with someone like yourself, it feels like that would be a progression,
Yeah.
even directing as
It
well.
feels like it'll be an inevitable part of the journey.
Absolutely. I mentioned earlier how insane this industry is, and as wonderful as it is. There's a lot of rejection in this business, and we talk a lot about that on my show. From some of the actors that I've interviewed, award-winning Emmy, Oscar award-winning people that I've chatted with, you
Yeah.
know, it's still I mean, these are guys, it's still rejection. It still is something that they deal with,
Yeah.
and how do you, approaching auditions? What do you have any advice for any, actors out there on how you deal with rejection?
Yeah. First and foremost, and I pause and think of my words on it, but I'm going back to God again on this. And I know not
Yes,
every listener may be a believer or may not believe in, the same God of the Bible that I believe in, but I do believe he knows our journey. And I think you just have to submit to that. And so there's a degree of trust that I have in it. There have been a couple projects that I just in some way knew were going to happen, and they did happen. And if they didn't, that'd have been fine. There's a degree, because even within that, you're going to be told no a lot.
yeah,
And just as a simple statistics game, the moment you have more than two people auditioning for a part, which is most parts, most people are not getting the part.
that's right.
So even if you are top tier, you are still getting more no's than yeses. It's just part of the game. Now there's a lot of roles out there. People are working. It's not like you're, going to take 2 years to get some job someplace.
Right,
Well, I'm going to speak on it. Everybody's path and process is going to be different. It's up and down. Last year was a textbook case of having a month and a half, 2 months of thing after thing after thing after thing, and then bam, just as long, and it'll be 2 months, 2.5 months of nothing, and then it'll hit like a storm again.
right.
There's no rule that says it's going to spread out, but I think there's a degree to which you just sort of have to get used to it. You definitely have to be confident. This even sounds a little weird, but sometimes I just accept the fact that, first of all, not every casting decision is based off of who's the best actor.
Right. Yeah.
And secondly, casting directors are people too. I'm not knocking anybody, but hey, maybe you were the best choice and they messed up. That sounds like a silly little thing to say, but there's little tricks
Yeah.
when you, like you say, you get a lot more no's than yeses.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to chalk it up, but you do have to have that. You have to have that level of confidence without being arrogant.
Yeah, and there's a lot of truth in that. There's a documentary. I don't know if you've seen it before. It's called that guy that was in that thing. That's like the name of the documentary, and
Yeah,
it's about character actors that are out there, and
yeah,
that we've seen like thousands of times in like different projects. You know their face. You just never really got their name. They're not household names, but
yeah,
they're wonderful actors. And one of them said, auditioning is just a real kind of a weird thing. It's like you can go in, and he made a point of saying you can go into an audition and you can remind the casting director of his brother-in-law that he loves,
Yeah.
and he loves, and or you can go in there and remind him of his brother-in-law that he hates,
Yeah.
and either it's just
Yeah.
human, like you said. They could make a mistake, and we've seen in big budget films where someone was cast and you realize who else went for that role, and you're like, they would have been a lot
Yeah.
better for this
Yeah.
role.
I've seen it before. I've seen casting directors say, "Ah, shoot, I should have done this instead." I mean, actors will
Yeah,
do it too. We're just all people. I'm not knocking any
yeah,
particular group. We make mistakes.
yeah,
And again, it's art too. It's not even that it's necessarily wrong,
yeah.
but yeah, but it is easy as an actor. And sometimes too, you don't hear back
Right.
and they loved it. And sometimes you're fortunate enough to hear that. Like
Yeah.
I've been at cons before. The faith-based space is especially small,
Hmm.
and I've shown up and had somebody say, "Hey, you auditioned for this thing. Man, we loved your audition. We wanted somebody that was, like physically more this, but like you're on our radar." Like
Yeah.
sometimes you're blessed enough to actually get that, or you hear it about somebody else. The
Right.
the girl I said that kind of planted the seed in me, she was working in casting at the time, and I got to see some tapes for people. There was this one guy that had a strong accent that she loved, and it was really great for the piece as a whole. But he physically was clearly not the right fit for the character that he was being
Right.
auditioned for.
Right.
I have no idea if he ultimately got cast in the project or not, but she could not set his stuff down. She kept coming back to him, going, "Oh, I love the way he speaks. Can I find a place for this guy?"
Yeah.
He may have not gotten cast and never known that somebody was fighting to get him in because she loved him.
Right. That's
He
the
might
thing
not know
also.
that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's important. That's a really, really good point. And I think it's also important to understand that the casting directors, they want you to solve their problem.
Yeah.
What I mean? They want you to come in and be the one, because they could see it. They're professionals. They know exactly what they're looking for, and when they see it and they'll get excited, and it just handle the problem for them. So when you go in, you know especially, I mean, now obviously we have the taped auditions as well, but I think they're going a little bit more back to at least callbacks are now more in person. um than that's picking up now. But when you go in, just know that they're on your side. They're on your side. I was in New York, and in New York, I got to do some stuff with the HBO. And when you go into like HBO, it's complete. It's another level of understanding of how that works. And you walk in, there's no slating. You
Yeah.
don't stand in front of it. There's no three people behind a desk, and you're standing there with a camera and you're slating to camera. There's none of that going on. I literally walked into a room. There was a couch. We all sat down. We had around. I got some coffee. I had some, and everybody was just talking. And they were asking questions and we were talking. We did a couple of lines from the scene. They laughed. They enjoyed it. It was so different. They really want to make it work, because they know it'll solve their problems. So that's a thing that I remember going in, because rejection. I have a little tool that I also do is whenever I have an audition. This is when I was in New York. Whenever I was auditioning, because you audition and then you leave, and then all day long you're like, man, I should have done this, or maybe I shouldn't have done that, and now your whole day is ruined. And so what I decided to do was like, okay, after, and I got this from my acting coach. She said, book something after the audition. Go coffee somewhere, meet someone for lunch, do something that you have it already planned after the audition that you're doing that.
Yeah.
And I started doing that, and my buddy that I do the show on Sunday nights with, he's my cousin actually. He
Yeah.
worked in New York City in Manhattan somewhere. So I
Yeah.
would finish my audition, I'd go have lunch with him, and we
Yeah.
just hang out for the afternoon and stuff, for a little. I'll go bother him in his office and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what we started. That's what I started doing, and it helped so much because it took my, and I sometimes would forget about it. And then, if I get a call back, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I had this thing. So that's just a little thing that I do to kind of handle with the rejection. Um, so let's talk about projects that tell me about things you're working on, and what does the future look like for Carter Nelms?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there are a couple of cool releases coming out next month. One is a series of shorts. They're kind of some social media educational shorts going into America's 250th year here. They were
Oh, cool.
produced and directed and acted in by Janine Turner of Northern Exposure
Oh yeah,
through
yeah.
Constituting America. They've just begun promotion for this, and so I think there's
Wow,
really
that's
not a
so
whole
cool.
ton more
Northern
that I can say
Exposure
on
was
that.
one of my favorite shows.
Oh yeah, yeah. See,
Yeah,
it was a little before my
it
day,
was
but
way
my
before your
parents
time.
were big
Yeah,
fans of
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
it was such a great show.
yeah.
Fleischman and all those guys. Yeah, it was great.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, she was fun to work with and very passionate about the subject matter, the subject material. So
Yeah.
she has been since she was a girl, and so
Wow.
it was fun to be a part of, and that's going to start kicking off on April 21st next month.
Okay.
There also is a TV show that has been on a few different services. Most recent season has been on Angel Studio
Okay.
service. They shot a feature length project special episode that we'll be releasing on April 30th that we
Okay.
shot last year,
Okay.
and that will also be available on Angel.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool. Wow, that's exciting. That's awesome. Yeah, Angel is, there are these studios that are really just doing some really great work. Angel Studio is definitely one of them. I'm looking forward to seeing what Nate Land Entertainment does.
yeah,
They're also not necessarily they're not really necessarily Christian based, but they are clean and put
yeah.
out
He,
content that kind of yeah, Nate
yeah,
and
he's
those.
spoken before too. There. If you've ever been to a show or seen one,
Oh yeah.
even I was fortunate enough to go see him when he was in Nashville back in December, and his dad had an opener too. And I gotta say, his dad's every bit as funny as he is, with while being a
Oh,
totally different act.
the magician, yeah.
Yeah.
That is so great.
But
Yeah,
they definitely overtly integrate their faith into their work, and even Nate
absolutely.
has spoken about believing it's that what God has called him to do is to be a clean comedian.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
whether his individual bits are, you know,
yeah.
bringing preaching in or not, that's definitely there.
Oh, it's definitely there, and he does that. Well, he had the podcast that he was doing with Brian Bates, who's also does a lot of Christian based material. Um, Dusty Slay, who's also in there as well. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a comedian here in Nashville. He's on the podcast with Nate, or
Awesome.
was on this podcast with Nate, and Dusty has been on my show actually, and he's a buddy now, and those guys are really to me the future.
Yeah.
It really is because the thing about it is that it's funny, it's
Yeah.
entertaining, it's good.
Yeah.
And I think there was this, it's sort of like Christian music, where for a
Yeah.
while it was like, well, Christian music, people didn't like it because maybe they thought it wasn't good. But
Yeah.
go back and listen.
Yeah.
It's as good as anything, and
Yeah.
that to me was always and I think that's being more exposed now. I think there's more faith now. People are having a lot more, younger people, especially like yourself.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah.
the numbers are up. People are going back to church. They're believing in something again.
Yep.
And I think it's the byproduct of social media kind of like sucking our souls for so,
Yeah.
so many years. I think people have realized what are we doing? Like this is
Yeah.
like
There's sort of a collective think of what the word would be for it really, but there is this sort of collective conscience of an entire country and an entire generation, and we've
yeah,
been we've been that guy who's kind of been living his own way by his own rules for so long, and
yeah,
now we're that guy who's realizing I can't do this forever and is
yeah, yeah.
coming back and going, hey, maybe I should start going to church again, or
Right, right, right. So
yeah,
I'm so happy that that's happening. So let's talk a little bit about like the industry, right? Because
yeah,
being again, there's certain projects and that I'm a Puerto Rican from the Bronx, right? So I got cast many times as things that I was just like, ugh, God, it's like so,
yeah,
and that's fine. I did them, they weren't like degrading or anything like that.
yeah,
But I've played
just
the
narrow,
super. I've played the maintenance guy. I've played the landlord. I've played Jewish characters. I've played Israeli characters, but they're
Yeah.
all like landlords and guys that work in mail rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I started writing my own stuff, and I just created myself the way I wanted to see myself.
Yeah.
But moving forward, now with the industry, the shifts that are happening, AI being in the mix of all this insanity, SAG
Yeah.
after having their battles as well. What do you see? Where do you see yourself like in the next couple of years as far as like being a leader in
Mm.
the space?
Good question. AI is something in particular that's been on the forefront. I mentioned my background in software engineering. That's another space where it's been touched on. Everybody in every industry is talking about this,
Hmm.
and acting has been one of the top ones having that spoken about. I believe, and I finally heard someone else, another local director with enough credence to trust his word on this. It's all prediction, but I finally heard someone else say this too. There's been a little bit of exhaustion already in the last 10, 15 years with CGI.
Hmm.
And there's definitely a level of handcraftedness to CGI in relation to AI,
Right.
which is a form of CGI. I get that. I'm not getting into the semantics too much, but we were already a little bit bloated with that. Movies are starting to look a little bit samey. You
Hmm.
see shots. I remember seeing a shot of Samuel L. Jackson from, I think it was Captain America, over 10 years ago, leaning back in a chair holding a gun. And it's like, well, he's in front of a green screen. They just put a room behind him, like a
Right.
wallpaper, and his gun is green, so they can make the gun whatever they want. Now,
Right.
it looks fine. It's not like it's a terrible image in the final movie, but there's something's just getting a little bit lost. When people find out something is AI, they disconnect. Even if something,
Completely.
yeah, yeah, and you might be able to
Completely.
slip something in a few times, but that old adage of you can fool some of the people all the time, all the people some of the time,
Yeah.
but you can't
Yeah.
fool all the people all the time. So this going back to this prediction is that the further we go down this road and the further we blow this bubble up, the greater the demand will be
Hmm.
for old school. So I have not seen Hail Mary yet. This
Right.
movie out with,
Then
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
I understand it uses some practical effects in ways that movies nowadays tend not to.
Right.
There's an appeal to that. People like that kind of thing. You can tell. I remember going to see Mad Max Fury Road when it came out a little over 10 years ago. If you've ever seen the difference between the
Hmm.
raw footage and the final cut, just about the only difference is that the sky is blue. When they have people on motorcycles jumping over the big rig, throwing explosive spears,
Right.
they actually have people jumping over the big rig on motorcycles and they actually set off explosions.
Yeah.
And you feel that, and it draws you in, and it
Yeah.
makes your body feel the risk of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Furiosa comes out a few years later, and
right.
it's fine, but there's just way more CGI, and that's not even AI, and that takes you out. So there is this bit of fear with everybody in the film industry about how it's going to affect things. I don't think I could do it without that confidence that it's something God calls me into. I think that there's going to be a whole frontier here, to be honest. I have no
Yeah.
idea really what it's going to look like. As far as being a leader, there's an element of me of just sticking my head forward and charging forwards and figuring it out as things go. But I have a high degree of confidence that it's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done at least five shows on AI in the last like 6 months. And I think first of all, it's been perverted to such a degree that now when anything is AI, and I use AI for certain things, for research mainly, but like doing funny little video things, like not even funny, like putting my clothes, changing my out, stuff that I don't have the cash to go out and buy a king's uniform and a crown, with jewels
Yeah.
and stuff, and silly things like that, which is funny. It's fun. It's fun. It's like Play-Doh. AI to me is Play-Doh, that you can have and do fun things with. But it's gotten to the point where now where they had like Mr. Rogers wrestling Jimi Hendrix and They have all these ridiculous things, and it was like I watch it and I'm thinking to myself, what is the purpose of this? What are you trying
Right.
to achieve? This
Yeah.
was 15 seconds of complete nonsense.
Yeah.
People, are you really making a shift into anything? And this is where people are starting to go,
Yeah.
that's not, I don't want to, I don't care. I just
Yeah.
don't care. It's not even interesting anymore
Yeah.
because
The
they gave them a new toy and
yeah.
they didn't know how to play with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
The funny thing to it is, like, in a way there's a purpose to it, but that purpose is opening people's eyes to the question of, why does this matter?
right? Exactly.
I think there's a
It,
degree we've gotten a little bit
it's
lost.
it's almost
Yeah.
good that they did that because
Yeah.
it's almost in a way they kind of just shot themselves in their
Yeah.
own feet
Yeah.
because they kind
I
of
think yeah.
proved, yeah. And I was like, good, keep doing ridiculous things. People are just gonna, it's gonna be more clear. People are gonna look at it and be like CGI. And I had said in the show that I feel that not CGI, AI, that AI is going to become a genre of something. Just like we watch horror films, we
Yeah.
watch romance, we watch thrillers. AI is going to be its own thing. You guys go do your little robots and your AI stuff. The one thing that AI cannot do
Yeah.
is have real, meaningful nuances to questions and scenes. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen the guy that's on online right now. He does auditions of AI actors. And
Yes.
yeah, and it's hilarious because they're just horrible.
Yeah.
And I was talking to this on one of the shows about, if you watch Silence of the Lambs, and there's a scene where Jodie Foster is outside, the prison, and Anthony Hopkins is there,
Yeah.
and he's talking to her. And he's kind of like breaking her down. He's kind of like saying exactly, this famous scene, but he's kind of like almost like exactly what she is. And her facial expression goes from being angry, being she's gonna handle this, to like being like, oh God, he knows
Uh-huh.
more about me. And her
Yeah.
face, she does the whole thing. Of course, she won an Academy Award for that. But she does this whole thing with her face. AI does not have that ability right now. It
Yeah.
doesn't have that ability. Now, people, I had spoke to somebody else and they said, well, they can just prompt it to say, take these expressions from Jodie Foster in this movie and put this in here. I'm like, it doesn't matter because it's
Yeah.
not going to fit
Yeah.
what you're trying to fit it into
Yeah, it's
because
a
it's not
multifold
real.
thing. Like, it will get better, quote
It will
unquote,
get
just like it's
better.
gotten better, but it's a predictive algorithm, right?
Right.
It does not have a spirit from which to operate. It is a
Correct.
predictive algorithm that has learned by studying humans, and so it can emulate and it can imitate,
Right.
but it cannot experience.
Yeah.
And so the better it gets, the more people it can fool for a little while. But even
Right.
then, one, if you're telling it to take Jodie Foster's performance specifically and to use that,
Right.
one, that's actually more input from the human to try to get it to do what it's supposed to be doing. Two, that's taking what Jodie Foster actually did, the part that
Right.
matters here, before
Yeah.
we even get to the plagiarism conversation.
Right. That's another thing. Yeah. Yeah. There's so much that hasn't been resolved yet. Like, I think we're just at the beginning of this. I know that right now, with there's a film with Val Kilmer where he just kind of, his family gave the okay to kind of take his likeness,
Yes,
and now there's a film coming
heard
out.
about this. Yeah,
Yeah, it's being worked on, and it's going to be all. It was a story that he wanted to tell. He had signed on to do the project before he passed, and then his family decided to give the okay on it.
yeah,
And so this is going to be, I think, and I did a show on this too because I thought that this is going to be a groundbreaking kind of thing. This is
yeah,
going because this is the first time that an actor who's no longer here, his family's giving the okay. Does this, where can this lead to? And
yeah,
this is going to lead to I think I'm predicting that it's going to lead to a lot of lawsuits, a
yeah,
lot of family members that are like gonna sign off their dead, their relatives that were legendary actors, like from whatever years ago, and somebody's gonna be like, no, you can't do that. I'm part of the family too, and who owns the likeness of a human? Of who owns
yeah.
your likeness, your voice, your mannerisms? Who owns that?
Yeah.
and then that's going to come into play as well. So you being a software uh, engineer, art, you have like this, you have a completely you have a very interesting perspective because
Yeah.
you like technology, obviously, and technology is fascinating and it is awesome, but you also have this artistic, spiritual drive to do something meaningful. And now these two worlds are coming together in a way that we never thought it could be possible. How do you how do you see yourself in that in the next couple of years? I kind of asked you that question a little bit, but now with this new information that we just talked about, what
Yeah.
what do you see yourself, what do you think is going to happen in the next few years?
To be honest, yeah, I think there is going to be a point of diminishing returns on the improvements of AI. At the same time, it's been around for longer than we've been consciously aware of it for the last 3 years or so. 2023 was when
Yeah,
the Will Smith eating spaghetti became the unofficial metric for how
right,
good generative video AI is.
right.
But it's been around for a long time. It just hasn't been to the degree it could make the waves that it's been able to in the recent years.
Hmm.
Um, so when it really hit that onset, it shook, as a software engineer, my understanding of what a computer was capable of doing. Now, I haven't taken the time. I know a lot of people have taken classes and things like that to really get an understanding of AI. I understand it on a pretty low level, as far as how the algorithms and everything work. But when it really, the stuff now where you can just type in a prompt and it gives you that, even the terrible AI videos are still an amazing feat from a technical
Right,
standpoint.
right,
We,
right.
we may hate the implications, but it's an incredible feat. That actually did shake my understanding of like what was even possible. There's new technologies over years, but it's like by the time, say, Uber came out and you could order a taxi on your phone, basically, that
Right.
was amazing. That was just exactly perfectly, though, within the scope of what I understood technology was capable of. It was a new implementation of things. This was like, oh, this kind of changes the rules.
Hmm.
So there's a degree to which I feel a little bit like, can I predict what the next couple of years are really going to be like?
Yeah,
Do I trust myself to do that anymore? That said, I do think we're gonna hit, if we haven't already, a point of diminishing returns with things, but I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, I
yeah.
still will scroll across stuff and I'll question, hold on, is this
I
AI
know,
or not?
I know.
And yeah, yeah. And it's like you do kind of get to, there's some stuff now, if you saw 10 years, like if you took an AI generated interview and shot it back 10 years and showed it to somebody, they wouldn't question it because it's not
Right,
within their realm of understanding that that would
right.
be possible to make outside of either a long time spent making a
Yeah,
CGI video, way too long to be practical.
yeah,
That's the thing. Like it's not that some of the stuff wasn't feasible, but you can't have produced it in the amount of time you can produce it in now.
right.
And so I don't know. I do think we've hit that point. There's always little tells, right? Like the AI tells are a little bit lesser, but you get
Yeah,
accustomed to them. And eventually, what used to trick you starts to jump out at you like a sore thumb.
right.
So
Yeah,
I think that's just kind of the loop we're in. I think it's going to stay that for a little bit, but
yeah,
it will get trickier and trickier.
yeah. And one of the points that someone made, should we even care as artists?
I
Let's
think we
just
have to, but
let's
yeah,
continue to make good art.
yeah, yeah,
Because I think one of the things that they're forgetting,
yeah,
these boneheads, is that you have to tell a good story,
yeah,
dum dum.
yeah,
You have to actually be a good storyteller. Doesn't
yeah,
matter how much technology, and you can have. That's why this Val Kilmer thing is very interesting, because if you're gonna go all AI on a whole
yeah,
thing with a guy who's been gone a year now,
yeah.
how is that story going to resonate? How are you going to
Right.
communicate that
Because
story?
you
So
don't have Val Kilmer
you don't
bringing
have Val Kilmer's
any of him
spirit,
into
his
it.
soul, his
Yeah,
actual his his choices.
yeah,
he would have made the choice.
Yeah.
The computer is gonna not, make their own choices based on whatever they feed it. So, this is part of like what I was thinking, and with Sora recently having
Hmm.
to pull the plug on a bunch of stuff, and
Yeah.
having this is going to be more common now coming up. People just getting sued and getting you can't
Yeah.
just take somebody and put them into your video
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's right
Yeah. And
because
the world like that progresses things like that kind of technology, they'll operate at a loss if they have to just to be first, and that can pay
right,
off, right? They'll also do things they know they're going to get sued for and they know they're going to lose rightfully. And
right,
I'm not blaming any particular person. There's
yeah,
billions of people in the world, and these forces simply exist as natural forces.
yeah,
Before getting to anything else, there's
yeah,
always going to be that. And so they'll push into it knowing they're going to get sued, and it is a bet that the costs are worth the risk.
right,
And it's one of multiple risks. It's not like this is all that the people are doing and investing in is this one thing. The people putting money into Sora, that's not the only thing that they're doing.
right,
They're investing here and here and here and here and here. But that's what it
right,
comes down to,
yeah, yeah.
is hoping that the costs
It's money,
of even the things that they know they're going to lose because they know that they're stealing, but they don't care. Again,
right?
I'm not blaming any one individual person. That force
Yeah,
is always going to exist in a world inhabited by human beings.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're a lot better than me. I blame people. I go right. I just say it. I don't care. But
Well, I do blame people, I guess,
yeah, yeah,
but I mean, I can self-reflect on myself.
right.
It's just one of those, like, I'm not above human nature at
Right,
all.
right. I think also, there's when there's money to be made with something, especially if you're an investor and you don't really care necessarily that this widget works on an airplane and also works on that tractor.
Yeah,
I just want to kind of, oh, this AI thing here is good. Oh, that one is good. I'm going to invest in both of them. One of them is going to beat out the other, and
right.
it's going to be
Diversification of
Blockbuster
assets,
and
just investing.
yeah,
Yeah,
Blockbuster and Netflix. One of them, I'm going to
yeah,
invest in both, and one of them is going to do well, right?
yeah,
So, yeah, I think that's a good point. I think also there's this sense of fear that a lot of actors, including SAG, Fran Drescher, who's the president, right? And she's doing a
well, I
great
believe it's
job.
Sean Astin now.
Sean Astin, right? That's right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
she's still one of the
Oh,
she
okay.
was, but she's
Yeah,
like one of the forces that was running.
yeah,
I just heard an interview with her, and her valid point is to protect the actor's likeness. That's like so when we go on set somewhere and they're filming us and all different things, that they come back later on and say, hey, you know what? I would like to have Carter now, instead of having him on the motorcycle, I'm going to put him in this car. Can we
yeah,
just superimpose him in this car and have him do this
yeah,
thing? Well, the fact that if they're going to do that, that you need to know about it and you need to be paid for that.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind of like what they're now. That's a frightening even proposition for anything. The fact that because they can then put you, they can do things that are
yeah.
degrading. They can do
Well,
things
yeah,
that
because
are
then you go into like, can you just decide I'm going to do this and pay me for it, and I can't say no?
right.
I can remember there's things you don't think about when you're not an actor, and when you step in and start acting, you
Right.
start thinking about certain things. There was a
Yeah.
film I did a couple years ago. It was a smaller thing. It was no big thing, and it was not like degrading at all. It was simply that there's a moment where I look at something when we shot it. I look at something, I'm a little perplexed. I pick it up and I open it, and then I have a reason, like within the script, to kind of smirk and go, "Oh, I know what this is." And when they edited it, like that's how we shot it. When they edited it, they had me pick it up, kind of smirk, and then open it and look perplexed and like hardly offensive, right?
Right.
But I remember doing it and going like, "Well, somebody's going to see that, and
That's not.
like that's not what I did." Like
That's not what
there's a
you
degree
do.
there's a degree of which like where do you draw the line on things, right? Like you can't
Right.
get too up in arms on it. But I remember looking at it and going like it was fine, but I just didn't even feel like it was mine anymore,
That's interesting.
you
Wow.
know. And that's not even getting into
And that's the yeah, and
AI,
that's
right?
like a
Yeah,
small fraction of what is
right.
capable of what they're capable of doing at this
Yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah. Because it
Wow.
just felt like I might have just been in a room doing random things, and then you just take those Lego pieces and slap them together however you want. And there
Yeah.
is a degree of that in editing, no matter what. But
But
it's
it's still
it
your
just
performance.
yeah, yeah. And then it just felt like, well, that wasn't my performance anymore. It just
Right.
that's how it felt. And
Wow.
it was just that one moment in that project. Even it
Yeah.
wasn't like that was the whole thing.
Right, right. See, that's interesting, and I think this is again, like I said, we're going to be running into this a lot. You know, there's going to be lawsuits. There's going to be a lot of. I think they'll pull. I think with Sora pulling the plug on a lot of these things, I think that was kind
Yeah.
of a tell to a lot of the other guys. You're right. Some people are going to be like, "Hey, you know what? We'll get sued, but the publicity of it will
Hmm.
make a lot of interest. We'll make a lot of money. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's worth it to be sued.
Right.
Some
Right.
of them
Yeah.
are thinking about that. But I think in the long run, it's going to fail miserably. And storytelling now is becoming such a huge thing. Being able to tell a story and be able to write a story. Brands, I've done some shows on this where brands now are coming out. Macy's just purchased a script. Macy's, the department store, just
Yeah.
purchased a script and they're developing their own film. It's
Interesting.
called When Women Ran the World, or some. It was, I think that's the name of the script that the book that they purchased, and they're
Yeah.
turning it into a script and they're actually going to shoot it. Macy's.
Interesting.
There's a lot of brands now that are actually bringing in-house film into their
Yeah.
own, because now it's, you don't need the big cameras anymore, right? You can have a couple of reds and you can get, or you can even have some black magics and you can have really good quality filmmaking,
Yeah.
for a brand.
Yeah.
So instead of like Nabisco going out and hiring a marketing company and giving them $10 million to do your commercials, we're doing it in house. We're hiring a in-house director. We got
Yeah.
cameras, and we're going to be cranking out social media posts, and we're going to be cranking out a lot more. So this is the new wave of what's happening right now, and we're at the beginning of it. But this
Yeah.
Macy's thing that just happened a few days ago is
Yeah.
massive. And if if this continues, you'll be shooting Kellogg's will be shooting a thing, and you'll be
Yeah.
working for Kellogg's.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like the way it is, the way it's
Now, to be
happening right now.
clear though, like this movie Macy's doing, this is news to me. This is just like a, I don't know, drama, comedy, whatever, but it's just a movie. It's not an
It's a
advertisement.
movie. No, it's
Yeah.
not an advertisement. They're
Interesting.
purchasing and they're putting
Yeah.
out the film. Now it's gonna say Macy's production, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
even know
Yeah.
what name they're gonna use, but
Well, I
it's
mean, that's interesting.
it's
That's
yeah,
not
there's an article.
dissimilar. Well, the NFL, like professional sports, do that kind of thing.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to sit back and watch this, like
Yeah,
this
there's a
process.
if
It's,
you go to Business Wire, um, the Hathaway Company site, they
yeah.
have the whole article on there on this the Macy's bringing it's a it's a film about fashion. So
So it's on
Macy's,
theme.
yeah, so it's on theme. So I would
Yeah.
think that that would be it's sort of like that Jerry Seinfeld film that he put out about the Pop Tarts or whatever it was.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was a comedy about Pop Tarts or something. The
Okay.
development of Pop Tarts and the
Interesting. No, I haven't
and
heard of this one.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but he wasn't using the company that, like, it wasn't. I think it's General Mills or something. But
Yeah.
it's sort of like saying General Mills bought this script and had Jerry Seinfeld do this film about
Yeah.
Pop Tarts.
Yeah.
And it was just a film that was on Netflix, and it was
Yeah. Yeah.
entertaining. But that's sort of like where I can see things developing towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Carter, this has been such a pleasure to have you on and to talk to you and talk shop. I feel like we're an hour in. I feel like we just kind of
Oh wow.
started. I know, isn't
Wow.
that
I see it
crazy?
now. Yeah.
It's nuts. So tell us again where people can find you. I have your link tree here, so I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. So
best
I've built a personal website, but I'm kind of going through some overall branding process, and I've been thinking, oh, I'll wait till then. But so all that to say, I'll probably launch a website, or I will launch a website when that's out. It will be carternelms.com.
Cool.
At the moment, my current landing point is, as you can see there on the screen, Linktree/Carter Nelms. I'm, as far as social media goes, most active on Instagram, but that is linked to from the Linktree. As far as acting goes, I'm represented by Bold Line Entertainment in Franklin, Tennessee, Natalie Dendy. So she'd be my point of contact for anything acting related. But to follow, find me on Instagram, and for everything else, Linktree/Carter Nelms.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. 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 So Carter, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you so much. We'll definitely be chatting again in the future. We'd love to have you on again, maybe on the Sunday night live stream show
Yeah,
as well. That'd be a lot of fun as well. I could take some questions from people. But we'll definitely stay in connection, stay connected.
awesome. I love it, John.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thanks
man.
for having me.
You got it. Awesome. This is what we're talking about. This is the kind of conversations I love to have because they provide not only value, but they provide an insight that people that are starting out in the industry don't normally have. And where else can you get that from someone that's walking the path right now? Not to mention his faith is also unwavering. And I love to see that as well in young people that are actually leading the way and creating that path for others to come behind them. So I love that. So thank you, Carter Nelms, for being on. Appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. See you all next time. And as always, peace.